Thank you, Mary. It's so great to be here as a guest as opposed to as a moderator, something different in this season. And I brought a friend today. I brought Ali Rastiello. And Ali, why don't we start maybe with intros? Tell us all about you.
So my name is Ali. I have run the gamut of being in like demand gen roles, rev ops roles. I've been doing this for about 20 years at companies like Rackspace and Cornerstone on Demand, Big Commerce, Health Catalyst. And now I'm out on my own doing GTM Edit, where I'm getting clients together and really helping them with their go-to-market strategy and how to operationalize it and do the things that all of this neat technology lets us do as marketers.
And Ali, do you remember when we met? Do you remember that timeline?
I feel like it was when I was doing my Taylor Swift moment and I was handing out bracelets at a conference.
That was last year's Mopsapalooza. That was
Yeah,
the Swift bracelet, but this session is airing on the day that the 2025 Mopsapalooza is on. So I feel like it's symbolic.
it is very symbolic. And I will be there presenting again. So it's good little tie in.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like we got an exciting session today because I feel like the market is talking about buying groups. Nothing new, but yet here we are trying to kind of make it work. Everybody, like, there's this saying, everybody's got ideas, but it's all about execution because that's where the
Mhm.
tire meets the road.
Yep.
So I'm excited for you to share what you know, and I'll weigh in the little tidbits of what I know, and maybe we'll kind of have some kind of a version for people to take home.
I think that would be great. I'm
All
excited to talk
right,
about this. Is the stuff that makes me happy.
let's talk about the stuff that makes you happy.
So, I mean, the reality is modern buying, B2B buying is messy AF. It is not linear. Like we used to think that someone comes to the website and they're like, "Ooh, look at this fun product. I'm going to go buy it or I'm going to fill out a form and say I want to talk to a salesperson." Like that doesn't happen anymore. That's not reality. You've got solutions that are purchased by committee. You have so many people that have to weigh in on a decision. One of the things that always, I wouldn't say stressed me out, but frustrated me because I like to move fast and I like to be the decision maker, was that no matter how big of a title I had, I was a VP at my last company, I still had to go to the CFO. I had to go to the CRO. I had to go to the head of marketing. And we had to sit down and like present why. Even sometimes going to the CEO to say why we want to make this investment and why this is important. And so like there's so many people that weigh in on these decisions. It's not just one lead coming to your website, taking an action and purchasing. It's just unless you know your solution's like $30. Like that's not a thing. Um, and then because it's so messy, attributing all of the good things that marketing is doing in order to make that revenue and make that pipeline becomes a lot harder to do and really show the impact of marketing because it's just lives in different systems. It's kind of all over the place. And so those are the things that I think make it so difficult in these times to be a B2B marketer because there's just so much noise and it's so hard to really capture everything needed in order to show what marketing is doing.
And I feel like some of this sentiment were, you know, we're back to the brand narrative. It's like this
Mhm.
hissy fit, right? I tried to connect all the data. I tried to explain things to my superiors. I told them that this is dead, that is dead because I tried and it didn't work. So what do? I just call it dead, right? And I go move to something else. And people feel like the madman days, the graph or the pamphlets and the brochures. That's the safe harbor because at least it's tangible. People can
Mhm.
touch it, people can see, they understand what you spent the time on. When all of this stuff, the actual meaningful stuff, where you're starting this go to market motion for the rest of the business before you hand it off, you're the infantry, right? You're the foot soldiers on the front lines. Like that is hard. And I feel like people are being judged on that. And this whole shift of like, it's all about the brand, anyways, in part is because it's so hard to make this part tangible with data and tools and like actionable insights delivered to the next offense line.
I fully agree. And I do think that, especially marketers, we're always trying to prove our value in some way because for whatever reason we haven't been able to articulate the importance of the things that people can't really see or the intangibles. Like, I don't know if it's that we just can't articulate it or that it's just so hard to show like in a dashboard or something easily consumable. But it's always, I feel like we're always on our kind of like caught in arrears or like on I can't think of the word right now, but you know what I mean? Like we're always like hyper vigilant about like being able to prove our value.
Remember that there was this meme all over social media a few years ago. This is what my friends think I do. And they show a person doing some, cool stuff at work. This is what my mom thinks I do. This is what my husband or my boyfriend or girlfriend thinks I do. This is what I really do. I feel like for marketers, that's like so true because nobody sees all of the small stuff that you're
Hmm.
spending time on. And it's hard to show the results because you operate half the time on borrowed trust. It takes so much to operationalize something before you can show that it's out there, it's live, and then you wait for the results. So you're on this continuous cycle of building forward, buying trust, hoping that you're betting on the right horse and
Yeah.
investing in the right thing, and then having to talk the talk when the thing kind of starts yielding the results, or if they're not there. I feel like it's not for every person to
Hmm.
live this life cycle of
Yeah.
work activities.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I remember the days when they thought marketers were, especially like my Rackspace days. Rackspace people thought marketing made t-shirts and booked events. That's what we did. That was our job. And it was insane because like, we had like 80 disparate products and like 5 different lines of business. Like there was so much that went into that marketing strategy that was beyond a cool t-shirt, which we did make cool t-shirts. But it was so beyond that, but that's really what they kind of thought, like the outside of the company. Anybody close to marketing knew a little differently, but you know what I mean. But so I totally get that.
And I think part of the challenge, and I'll kind of move forward with what
Yeah.
we have for today, is that historically, the nerdy part of us marketers has always been proud to hoard all of this data just to be able to collect and inventory all these wonderful things. I do a little bit in the email, I do a little bit on the website, I got the third party syndication running, I got visits to web pages, and I'm just going to collect it all and I'm going to sit on it. Maybe I'll show it on a dashboard and say I did 5 of these, 10 of those, kind of like this, the restaurant menu by the
Mhm.
numbers, but it didn't go anywhere. So like, the industry talked about the signals. We
Yes.
started with intent and Bombora and then added to it, right, first party signals. Then we started talking about signals for sales.
Mhm.
Now we're talking about stacking signals. And I'm curious about your take. Like this slide comes from an event that Forrester presented at OpStars just
Mhm.
recently, right? And look at all of the things that we can actually collect with the right orchestration, the right tools. You can pull this data in and you can have this inventory of signals. The question is, how do you operationalize it? What do you
Yeah.
do with it next?
I think the hardest part and where we all fall down is how do we orchestrate all of this into something that's actionable for everyone on the go-to-market team? So you have a social team that's, doing a whole lot of work. You've got a web team that's building a website, a demand team that's running a bunch of campaigns. You've got the sales team that's doing things. All of these folks are kind of working in their little bucket. And some of them are in shared systems, some of them are not. So how do you surface all of that? And I think that's really the thing that AI could crack for us in the next few years. I think it's still really hard right now with the legacy systems that we use. Like you could surface some of this stuff in say your marketing automation platform and kick off some automated systems and programs. You could get some of this through an ABM platform that's going to kick off like some advertising that goes off, and that could all be automated in some way, but it's still not aggregated in a really good way that helps you surface that to your sales team in the end so that the sales team really understands one place to go look and what's actually happening in that account. It's very hard. I think I'm going to give you guys a shout out. I think you are the closest tool that I've ever seen do it by surfacing those AI summaries on the account level when you have everything connected on the marketing side. I haven't seen another tool that's able to do a lot of those things in a succinct, easy to consume way. So I think that's the bigger challenge. Also, some of these things, like especially the service level interactions, those tend to be held by those systems a lot of times are held in teams that are not part of the go-to-market teams. So getting them to be able to integrate with your go-to-market systems and getting those teams on board to do that can be extremely challenging, especially in a really big company. Everybody's got different priorities. You guys are all under different leaders. There's security elements to think about. So it sounds like it could be something so easy, right? Like you get all of this rich data, just surface it. But the
The
reality of
story
orchestrating it
definitely
all is
sounds
very
easy.
hard. Do what? I'm sorry.
This story definitely sounds easy. Like you can explain it on your 10 fingers. You don't have to use your toes. Just do
Yeah.
XYZ, right?
But then go call your security team that runs your ticketing system for your CS team that sits in a different org, and then try to get on their, roadmap to integrate with your systems because their KPIs are not the same as yours. And so that's, I think, where some of this is really difficult. But I do think that as we get smarter with AI, and there was a huge push for CDPs, right? Customer data
They-
platforms. And I don't like all of it that was like the hot thing for like 2 years, and now you don't hear about it. But maybe that is the real key, is being able to push all this data someplace that can aggregate it all and then push it where it needs to go to get activated. Like maybe that's what we go do after this. And we go invent that.
It's funny that you say that because I feel like this is the pre-me time, but Caliber Mind started in the area of CDPs, right? That was
Mhm.
the early days offering for that very reason before we kind of moved to the marketing data warehouse. But just recently, I remember Scott Brinker bringing up a number saying that the CDP category is so bloated. Well, it was whatever 8-9 months ago, right, when they
Yeah.
were looking at that, saying that there are 50 players within the same category. And it's really, really hard to differentiate because the benefit is there. And what happened, many tools started aggregating, it's like, through M&A, all of those CDPs so that they can add the very functionality we're talking about to structure that data, compartmentalize it, operationalize it. But that takes us to this next point, which is very human and not automation driven at all, just alignment within the company. So like, okay, here you go. You got your buying group. Does the sales team realize that they have to multi-thread into a buying group? Or are they still chasing that one person, with first name, last name, and email address, and they think that's how they open opportunities? I feel like that piece is so important too. And that goes back to your cross-departmental alignment and people
Yeah.
thinking about the same things, which is also hard to do.
Yep. 100%. So what I would say, you want to advance the slide? Because I really think that like this is the point that we need to make, is operationalizing your personas and your buying groups in your marketing automation platform and your CRM is critical to being successful in campaigns and in understanding what your campaigns are doing in terms of revenue growth. Without those places to put that data and a way to like be able to segment and action on it, you can talk about buyer personas, you can talk about this stuff all day long. It's not actionable if it's not operationalized in your systems. You cannot do the things that you need to do. And where I see a lot of people struggle is that they tend to know. Actually, let's go to the next slide. I think that'll help this conversation a little bit. So when I meet with people and I talk to them, I feel like they usually get the ICP part right. Like they know where they play well for their like what verticals they play in well, what kinds of companies to go after, what segment of the market, what size of company or revenue band of company. Like they know those pieces pretty well. But then when you start to get down to who the buyer is and what they care about, not just the company, but like what makes someone, because buying is an emotional thing, right? Just like I always tell people when we talk marketing campaigns, I'm like, if your marketing campaign does not make an emotional connection to somebody, whether that's about filling a need that's making their business harder, or if you're in the like B2C space where you are making them feel like, oh, this is going to make me happy. Like those two things are so critical to for somebody to say, I want to buy that. If you're not doing it, and if you don't understand that buyer and why they buy, then you're you're doing marketing, but you're not doing it's not having the impact that you need it to have. So when you start with that buyer unit, that's understanding every single person in that company that has some level of influence over that deal. They may not be the decision maker, but they are in the conversations within that company. And you are having to do, if you're like the champion, you are having to go to all of those people and be like, please, sir, look at what I have. Can you buy from me? Can I have this? And it always felt like a beggar going around to all of my different leaders and who else I needed to talk to and make this whole rigmarole case for anything I wanted to buy. And
It's
it was
very
really
humbling
difficult.
too, because you cannot say I said so. It's very humbling.
Yes, true, right? And the thing is too is like you have to make them understand things that may be concepts that they don't understand, especially in the technical world. um and so you really have to be able to make that, get the marketing that you're consuming has to be able to speak to the things that they care about. So that buying unit is super important to know everyone that's part of that deal. And then your personas, that's the part that they play in that deal, right? Like that's the are they an influencer? Are they a champion? Are they part of that sort of ratifier or financial buyer who is like looking at numbers and ROI and total cost of ownership and like what does this really mean? What is this real investment? Um, and understanding what they care about in terms of the buy. And not only that, but who do they listen to get to validate their assumptions? Where do they go get their information if they're going to go do any personal research themselves? Is there podcasts they listen to or specific websites that are um, information sources, kind of like uh I can't think of the one that I was thinking of right now. Like it's on the tip of my brain, but it doesn't matter. But like where do they go get all of their information from? Is it LinkedIn? Are they just following a bunch of people on LinkedIn and making sure that they consume all of those content? So understanding where they get it from and who they speak to and listen to regularly informs where you go advertise and what the message is in terms of that advertisement and the that content piece you're creating. And I really think a lot of marketers skip this or they skim this because when I ask, do you have your personas done? Like created, not even in your systems, nothing like that. Do you know your personas? And I usually get a bunch of titles, which I'm like, no, 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 boo. That is how you go find them. But do you have your persona? Do you know what they care about? Do you have a synopsis of the things that they most care about in the buy? And that really honestly is usually not done. Or if it's done, it was done like 4 years ago and not looked at again. And so to me, that's the most critical part to all of this strategy is knowing who these people are and why they're going to buy from you. And then on top of that, you need to be able to operationalize it so that you can activate on it in your systems.
And in all fairness, I will raise my hand and I'll say that I'm the guilty party here because how I have done personas in the past, yes, you would pick your titles and then you would assign them a role, right? Whether it's a
Mhm.
champion, it's a person who looks at total cost of ownership, or maybe it's somebody who advocate or influencer are the two names. Then the technical buyer, the person who makes sure the technology will work, and then the users themselves, which usually at the bottom of the totem pole, but they still have the way in, right? So you kind of figure it out on the map, anecdotally spread it through the company, ask nicely to your sales team, hey, make sure on the opportunity you do the drop down and you pick these people. And I've noticed that they're really, really good about picking the champion because that's the one person that is easy to identify.
Yep.
If it's a tech title, maybe they will pick the technologist. If it's a finance title, they would pick the financial whatever. I cannot think of the financial the other way to say the financial influencer, but it is very much rooted within the world of that salesperson or BDR who opens those opportunities to make the call. And I'm curious on your take on this. Like this identification at an individual person's role, here's your title,
Mhm.
this is where you fall within the persona world, I think is different than how you would think about the buying unit within itself, the ecosystem of how these different people work together and the messaging that you might deploy through your campaigns that would get them to pay attention versus like, I know we figured out the nurture is based on the title. If it's this title, then you send them this line of
Yeah.
messaging. If it's this title, you send them that, right? But talk to me a little bit more about like, are they similar or once they become that buying unit, the behavior of the collective is a little bit different than individual behaviors of the people.
I actually think they're the same
The
because
same.
they are all playing a role in the decision. And if you understand what that role is and that what they care about in terms of the unit, that's how you build that persona out. It's not just about the individual one champion person. It's about all of these players and the thing that they care about in the buy. And that's how the buying unit works, right? It's not about just that individual person, but you still want to be able to get that layer of data on your lead and contact record. When you talk about contact roles in Salesforce, which I'm assuming we're just going to talk like everybody uses Salesforce because who doesn't unless you're in a HubSpot. Um, or Dynamics. Yikes. Anyway, but that contact role, that's only on the contact. Marketers are living in a world a lot of times where there's leads and contacts. And so you need it at that and your marketing automation platform, they're looking at that person level all the time, no matter what. And so you need these personas and their buying unit operationalized on that leading contact record, not just something that might live on an opportunity or on a contact only, especially like in companies that have high volume where they might have a huge lead database. You need to be able to orchestrate that on those individual records before we even get to the sales cycle. Because once that BDR, that seller's like putting people in for those personas, technically like a big chunk of the marketing cycle should be done at that point. But if you don't have that operationalized for you to be able to run a campaign, how does that work if it's at the caboose? You know what I mean? Like it needs to be in the beginning. So I think, my real take on this is that if you orchestrate it right as that leader contact is entered into your database, doesn't matter if it comes through a marketing channel or if a salesperson's like, I went to this thing and I, met this person and I'm going to go put their name in our CRM. Doesn't matter how it happens. If you have a layer or automation that's running either through an orchestration tool or some kind of workflows, maybe there's a fancy AI tool that I haven't found yet to do this. But if you do that in the beginning, you're like teeing up all this beautiful data for your marketers to be able to go use and really help push the right message to the right people. And then also, sorry, my dog is,
Yeah.
my husband's not here today, so my dog is freaking out.
The good news is we're recording, so I'll just clip it out.
I'm sorry. Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
Somebody just rang my doorbell.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was just UPS being okay.
Don't
Okay,
worry, we're gonna clip that out.
Yeah, I know we are. I know, but my dog is still freaking out.
What kind of dog do you have? Sounds like a small one.
Yeah, she's a little dachshund.
Oh, those got some. You know what? I would not picture you with any other breed. I had a dachshund. They got so much personality.
They're so fun. I've had two.
My parents had one. It was the wire haired dachshund, and
Mm.
that thing was little. She was the runt of the litter, and she had so much drama every day. Like somebody sat in her spot, somebody didn't feed her on time. It was everything.
Oh yes, she's the same way. So my husband's usually here during the day, and his office is right by the front door. And then when I'm recording something like this, he usually keeps her wrangled. But today he's working at his actual office, which I'm like, of course you are. You do this like once every 3 months. Great.
The timing always works.
Yep. Okay, so
All
where
right.
did I leave off?
So why don't we go into the orchestration piece, kind
Yeah.
of like, to make all of these things happen, whether it's at the intake or later on. So
Yeah,
walk
let's
us
talk about okay.
through.
So, to me, the most important piece is orchestrating the stuff in the beginning so that marketing can activate on it the right way. And I've used, um, typically, I use OpenPrize. I'm an advisor for them. It is a data orchestration tool. They can do crazy stuff, build out really interesting things if it's connected to your Salesforce, and then your marketing automation platform is connected to your Salesforce, right? Everything gets orchestrated based on what's happened, like when that record is created. And it can see things that your typical marketing automation platform can't see. So things like, for example, we used it to translate some CPQ data in the product data and subscription data that only lived in CPQ onto the account record so that Marketo could see it and we could do segmentation in our campaigns, like cross-sell, upsell stuff. I don't know how I would have solved that if I didn't have an orchestration tool. So that's how I built them. I'm sure there's other ways to crack this nut, but I would highly recommend and think that an orchestration tool should be part of everyone's go-to-market systems, because it just makes the data cleaner. It makes it so much more actionable. And I think I got to like 95% accuracy at my last company because we were able to use it. So what the way that I operationalize this is it starts on lead or contact entry. Doesn't matter who's entering the record. It could come from a marketing campaign. It could also come from a salesperson just putting a record in. As soon as that record's in, my orchestration platform sucks it up and goes through lots of washing machine workflows. And those workflows standardize all of the data in a way that I need it to, so that we can stand it up, get it ready for action, and start deploying campaigns, and all the different things that we want to do with that information. So it really starts in the most critical part is that job title. So here I use the CFO. I mean, it's really more apparent in things like a marketing title, which, Nadia, I'm sure you guys have this frustration a little bit since you guys sell to marketers. But there's VPs of marketing, there's CMOs of marketing, there's VPs of demand gen. There's all of these senior level different titles that could be the leader of marketing or the person that you're trying to sell to, like is your ultimate decision maker. And if you're trying to like take all of those random job titles that people have and not organize it in a very standardized way, it makes it very hard to collectively pull those lists the way you need to. So, for example, since I use chief financial officer, could also be like a VP of finance or chief finance officer. Like there's all these different versions that they have. I just use CFO, like it was entered as CFO. OpenPrize has a whole database of titles and ways to normalize that into one single chief financial officer title. So everyone with that type of record would have chief financial officer as their title, no matter what they entered in and what somebody else entered in. And even if it's spelled wrong, they can usually scrape it and make sure that it has this normalized view. That is the key to all of this, because then you can take that and you go, okay, I know what role the chief financial officer or the highest level of the finance team plays in my buying unit. And I can create a waterfall off of that in a business logic that says, okay, their job function, that's the department they're in. They're in finance. Then I can say what their seniority is so that I know if they are like an executive, a mid-level, maybe decision maker or budget holder, and then who's like more of like an influencer type. That just helps me understand where they kind of fall in the world. And then that persona becomes really important. And on this one, I really went back to the same terms that you had on the slide earlier. So the ratifier, the person that's going to push back and say, have we looked at multiple like different things that solve this? Do we have something that solves for it now? Are we replacing that? What is the total cost of ownership? What is, I know that this is the like per license number, but what is the reality of what we're going to have to spend on this? They're going to ask all of those really pointed questions about that business cost. And then in the scenario that I've lived in a couple of different companies where you have multiple offerings or solution offerings that could have completely different buying units for each one. For example, at Health Catalyst, we had clinical offerings that were more of your administrator or clinicians that are using it, things like patient engagement. So like the platforms that creates the portal where you go talk to your doctor and see all your notes and scripts and all of those things. That's a very different buying unit than the financial empowerment offering that we had that was all about the finances of the hospital system. So you really want to differentiate some of those people, because especially if you're running a little bit broader campaigns and you have got multiple people from the hospital interacting with them, you don't want to give credit, I guess, to an opportunity for solution B for like the financial one if it's a clinician that's interacting with you and that maybe opportunity hasn't popped yet. So it's really helping you refine how you attribute the marketing effort to the pipeline that's being created. But all of this happens in an orchestrated way on your lead and contact roles. So then you can kind of do sky's the limit with it. You can run really targeted campaigns through your marketing automation platform. You can push those lists into your ABM platforms and make sure that they're getting the right type of advertising, high level messaging. You can do really, targeted event outreach. There's so many things you can do when you know that level of detail around that person. And then on the flip side, when you're really doing your reporting and really understanding your attribution models, you can segment that out. The way that I think about attribution is I do a very simplified motion for it. I don't like to do the like, we ran 6 campaigns and here's an opportunity, so we're going to like slice up that amount each campaign gets. I don't really look at it that way. I look at it like, here's an opportunity. We had 6 different programs that involved all of the buying unit within that opportunity. So we're going to get marketing full credit for that opportunity that they have an influence over it. They may not have sourced it. That's a little different, but they get this full attribution amount for it when you're thinking in terms of like how much pipeline did they influence. So when you're really thinking about that attribution, you can really look at it and say, well, this was solution B opportunity. Here's the buying group of solution B in leads, in contacts, and here's everything that they've engaged with and responded to in the last 12 months. So now we see that influenced that opportunity because now it's here. And it could be that it influenced, you can like cut it up, right? You can say it influenced the creation of that opportunity because all of these touches happened before, or you can be like, it's pushing the deal forward because these touches have happened during the sales cycle. Like there's all these different ways that you can look at it, but you're still looking at the full buying unit and what influence they've had on a specific opportunity or number of opportunities. That's really different and really critical to those teams or companies that have these multiple offerings. I was in a situation where I had a CMO and a CRO who did not see eye to eye on anything. And we were stuck because we were trying to give marketing as much credit as possible. So we were just saying, well, here's an opportunity with account A, and here's all the people from account A that have engaged in marketing. And the CRO immediately was like, but you don't know that they're involved in this deal, and like just nitpicking it all the way through. So we had to really strip back our attribution model and only go to direct, right? Like, did person A that is listed on this opportunity actually respond to marketing campaigns? And if there's nobody else listed on it, only that person or the person listed is getting attribution from marketing, which is unfortunate because there's so much more that marketing was doing that was probably really influencing that deal. So in my mind, you could try to depend on the sales team, which we did at one point. We're like, why don't you just put everybody that you're talking to on that opportunity? And they were like, LOLs, we ain't going to do that. Like, they just won't. They don't have time. Especially our sales team, they were traveling constantly because they did a lot of in-person meetings versus Zoom. And so, it wasn't something that was scalable and something that was real. And I know that Forrester has they have a whole framework where they use the BDR to help do that. And that's really great until you don't have BDRs, like I didn't at Health Catalyst. So there was no middle person or middle team that was helping to aggregate all that for us. So you really had to come up with an automated solution to be able to see that full attribution that you want and all of those people that are involved in that deal before it even gets into the sales team's hands. I just did a lot of talking.
There are 3 points that you raised that I really, really liked. So I think the conversation of shifting explanation of how marketing delivers value towards influence is happening more and more. Like, we see that a lot. We talk to companies, and I think just in general, attribution just kind of got this bad rep, and it's no secret to anyone. People start slicing and dicing it. They have bad information of how they saw that in the free version of the tool, and that's all they know. So they bring it with them to their next role and argue, right?
Yeah.
But influence is definitely it, and it's more bulletproof to explain influence once people see that full timeline and the stamps and the engagement.
Yeah.
But what you also mentioned is that argument of, like, was that person really involved in this specific opportunity, or were they the ones over there on this other one? I think being able to double click into things and drill down to the granular level, like, what did this person do? I mean, I know, within our customer world, and you yourself as, a former customer, like, that ability to check at the person level, what was that buying journey? What were the emails that they opened? What were the web pages that they looked at? At that point, it becomes a no-brainer. They don't even have to ask the question. Like, go look, this person truly looked at the web page that speaks to the solution, open the email with the title. And then the last comment that I had, this is more of a kind of crystal ball, hypothetical, will it not? I don't know. But the AI BDRs and everybody looking at their value as the outbound ability to do bigger, better, faster, 24/7, no benefits and all of those things, right? But I feel like there's also the data hygiene, however big that sounds at the level of a BDR. But it's always there because they're the ones connecting that kind of anecdotal knowledge sometimes, making the call on how does this person belong in the reporting ecosystem. And if that piece is not there, and I've lived the life of BDRs and no BDRs, BDRs sitting on the marketing team, best thing ever. BDRs sitting on the sales team, different, right? But I think there are so many
serving that same kind of purpose, right? And then not having them at all, and you're like, well, how the hell am I going to get things really qualified? Like, how does this work?
And sometimes the sales team will be very active in outbounding and pursuing things, but you're right. Will they be doing all of the manual, put the person in the right campaign, drop down the field, figure out what their role is? Some will, most will not.
Yeah. And I think it's, it comes down to like also where they live in the org. I think marketing, when they live in the marketing leaders are very, very adamant about how they um, track and do their job. I think the sales team is more concerned with, did you actually tee up a conversation that's real and going to turn into a deal? Like what the differences are between the two, and sort of like the KPI or the thing that's most important to them is a little bit different. Marketing is, they want to get, tee up a great opportunity for sales 100%, but they also want to make sure that their campaigns are being tracked and they're getting credit for everything that they're doing. Whereas the sales team is like, nah, doesn't matter. They got me a great deal. I don't really care if they did all the admin work. So I do think that that's really important, a really important call out. But also, like, again, like if you don't have a BDR team, which that was something that we sacrificed at Health Catalyst, because we were going through, different headcount reductions. And one way to keep, the sales team whole, for the most part, was to get rid of that and then figure out, what does that mean in terms of, now the salespeople have to go do all of their own hunting, which was a challenge. And then marketing's got to be much sharper and much more targeted in getting, those at bats. So I changed the MQL definitions to, they have to say, I want to talk to a salesperson. And that was an MQL. So I did those two things to kind of overcompensate for that. But there's different scenarios at every company. There's different strengths and weaknesses. And so to me, if you can automate as much of this data stuff as possible to help everybody activate the right way, you just get a win across the board.
And I call this the Amazon Prime motion. I mean, we got to the point where Amazon gets things named after them, right? When marketing delivers ready to go, demo form fills, right? This is your Amazon Prime delivery right to your door.
It's got a little bow on it and everything.
Everything. Just call them, right? Well, I feel like, since we started talking about AI and kind of instrumenting things, going from the static, kind of more siloed approach that we all had, here we got all of our programs, all of our tech stack, tools, and they got things that live in somewhat corralled fashion. They do not talk to each other. Some of that flows, some of that doesn't. Walled gardens are a thing. Then you add the orchestration piece. Then you go into this full cycle of seeing who did what and when, what stage are they at in the funnel. Whether you like the idea of a funnel, you don't like the idea of a funnel, guess what? Opportunities move through a funnel.
Yep.
Well, from one to whatever stage you got at the end. So
whenever I hear people saying that the funnels are dead, I'm like, oh my God, stop trying to reinvent the wheel. It's still a funnel. You've got this many people and you're getting them down to this many people. It's all it is. It's just a visual.
It's all it is, and nobody tries to take on the other sides of the same concept, like the probability of opportunities in Salesforce. Like, well, funnel is, it's arguable. Who knows that it's this stage versus that stage? I'm like, who knows that this opportunity got a 10% versus a 20% win rate? Like, why is nobody arguing about that field?
Yeah, for real, right? I quantify mine by, I make my funnel, like once I have them in my marketing automation platform, I score them, but I don't score them to like, oh, if they did this many points, now they're an MQL. That's trash. That just bloats everything. But I score them so that I can say, well, they're engaged at this point. They are, highly engaged, and you can name your funnel stages whatever you want, at this stage. And so here, this is where we have to really focus on trying to get them to raise their hand and want a meeting. But like, I give that a number so that people can stop challenging that. I mean, like, no, the number is they're actually engaging with something. That's what the number shows you.
But the next stage of that, and I feel like this is the exciting release that we're in the process of pushing out to market right now, is being able to score the buying group members so
Mhm.
that somebody looks at that buying group and you're not looking at 20, 30, 40, 50, however many people within that account. You're looking at a predetermined 5 or
Yep.
3 or whatever you look at, right? And then it's really easy to look at all the companies that you have with all of the buying group members there and just prioritize them based on the score. And when you see that in company XYZ, Acme Corp, you had the champion with this many points or whatever that score is, right? Maybe it's red, yellow, green, however you want to
Yeah,
do it.
however you decide to score it.
You
Mhm.
see the influencer also with something, you see the tech buyer also with something, the financial person with something, like, oh my goodness, this is the one, because all of those buying group people had touch points and I need to go and prospect into one. The conversation is flowing. So I feel like, that's where you can have that holistic view of what's going in or going on within an account. And AI is that piece that allows you to bring it all together,
Mhm.
from mass volume back to the funnel idea. AI
Yeah.
enables the funnel too, right? And for you to make it digestible, and then you can run your campaigns, you can
Mhm.
orchestrate across the entire life cycle, then everybody can get the content that's relevant to them.
Yeah.
But I feel like in a lot of cases people have not made that mental connection of using the concepts that are tried and true but maybe old and not as fashionable to how you can apply them in this new universe.
I agree. I there are reasons that we track engagement and score them. It is not anymore to like inflate an MQL number and be like, let's just go call these people because they're showing some interest. It is now more about where are they in the life cycle and how does that feed into everybody in the whole account. And I think some of the ABM platforms do some of those things, but they live siloed in that ABM platform, and that makes it real hard to sell that into a sales team that maybe isn't very sophisticated about how they use Salesforce or anything. Even if there's a module that sits in Salesforce for them, getting them to be really active and tie into that is very difficult. And so, and maybe not for all sales teams, but a lot of the ones that I've worked with, I think they're overwhelmed by the amount of technology. And if your buying process or selling process is really hard, um, they're overwhelmed with trying to get that deal through and trying to understand how to structure the actual solution that's needed. Like at Health Catalyst, there was very bespoke pieces that you needed to really understand the depth of the customer in order to construct the right solution. They're so consumed with that, they do not care if you've got some new whiz bang tool that's going to show them an account that's hot. Like they just don't. They're so focused on the deals that they have in play and making sure that those get closed and that they're crossing all of their administrative I's and T's in the contracting processes and the quoting processes that it's just really overwhelming for them. So I think that one of the big things that AI has to bring to us is how to simplify that in a way for the sales teams to be able to consume it. Because it's one thing for marketing, because marketing can automate a lot of that messaging, right? It's not like a marketer has to sit there and go, oh, here's the 3 hot accounts today. I'm going to go take all these people and put them over here, and I'm going to put them in this ad campaign. No, we have systems that do that for us. But for the sales team, it's a little bit different because that's the manual piece of, actual selling. And so for them to be able to just log in and get a flash and say, hey, these 4 accounts are really hot. You should call these people, or you should reach out to this, or marketing is, I actually think it would be like marketing has all of these people in these messaging campaigns right now. They just push these in from these hot accounts. Your job is to put them into your messaging cadences or your outreach cadences or whatever you're doing. Not outreach as a tool, but outreach as a theory. Um, that to me is where it really gets actionable because they don't have time to really like sit and digest and search and do all that things. They just want to be able to go, oh, okay, I have like emails ready to go. I'm going to pop these people into those emails. Or I have like LinkedIn outreach ready to go. I'm going to go into Navigator and get in touch with these people. And it's like something really crisp and easy that they can do in the first 30 minutes of their day, and then go into all the other hard things that they have to do.
And I feel like in a lot of cases, marketing is such a collaborative team as a whole. It's
Mhm.
never one person doing their one thing, but for sales is different.
Mhm.
It's each one out for themselves. That's just the nature of the job, right?
Yeah.
And that motion of being like, herding sheep, your accounts or your buying groups within your account, those are your sheep. And you're the dog, you're the heel nipper of sorts. You're trying to corral people and bring them all together into the deal. So when you offer them the value of top 10 hottest accounts, means
And
nothing
the
to them.
people that you should talk to in them.
Exactly. It means nothing to them because it's so abstract and so obscure versus this account over here that I'm working in. I want to know everything about this account, every single thing that they did, because it might change what I do next when I talk to them.
Mhm.
So I think it's just a different approach. And that's where that empathy comes into play to kind of imagine what the counterparts day to
Yeah.
day look like. I don't think you know, we can take the prize as marketers and being the most empathetic when it comes to what the seller does with what we deliver.
Yep.
But I started thinking more and more about that because ultimately business is a team sport. And if I don't care what you do and deliver you things that you just ignore, been there, done that, created many things, wonderful things, as I thought in Salesforce, didn't get consumed. Just didn't get anywhere. It's like the
Mhm.
definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different result.
Yep. I will tell you, my role at Health Catalyst as a VP of RevOps, I actually sat on the sales team. I didn't sit in marketing, even though I did own marketing operations. Um, it gave me a much different perspective on what the challenges are of a salesperson and their day to day, and how marketing could be better partners to them. And also, like, what marketing needs to do in terms of messaging. Like, listening to what the challenges were from the sales team, and then going to marketing being like, hey, the sales team is saying XYZ. Like, that was a critical bridge that hadn't been crossed because of the way that their demand teams were set up at the time. So they just hadn't really been in an environment where that collaboration was like pushed um and really made to be important. Marketing kind of sat in their little silo, and sales was over here, and they never really had teams that could bridge them that well. They did at one point, like years before, but at the time that I got there, they didn't. And so it was just a whole interesting thing working for the CRO versus the CMO. And I just feel like it really help my perspective in general.
For sure. Well, I feel like, it's time for the big takeaway.
Yeah.
If you forget everything that we just talked about, but you still remember that the title of this session is buying groups, Ali, take us home.
Yes, your data architecture in your systems needs to mirror how your people buy. And you need to understand how your accounts are buying and what those people care about. Because when you do that, your marketing is much more performs better, your sales cycle shorten, and you're able to really show attribution at a detailed level, so that you get the buy-in that marketing needs to spend the money and do the things that marketing is doing.
So I think that kind of sums it up, distilling it down to what matters and sticking with it, because I think it's easier to sell when it becomes a simple sell versus all the other wonderful things that we have to explain that people don't really care about because they don't understand it.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, Ali, this was exciting. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I hope some of these folks that are going to be watching this are at MOPSA and can come hang out with us.
That sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Thank you so much, Nadia and Allie, for having that ready for us so we can enjoy while you're running around Mopsapalooza. Right before we go, I'd love to just tee up our next session. So next week, Wednesday at 1 p.m., as per usual, Eastern Time, we'll be talking to a LinkedIn ads expert who you might have seen across the LinkedIn feed. So I'm really excited about this one. We'll be talking to JD Garcia of Impactable about cracking the LinkedIn code for B2B marketers.